Kelly LeBrock is a name many people remember from the 1980s, a time when beauty, fashion, and Hollywood glamour were changing fast. But her life is not just about fame or movies. It is a story of rise, pressure, heartbreak, and finally, walking away from everything most people dream of. Her journey began far from the bright lights people later connected with her. She was born on March 24, 1960, in New York City, but her childhood did not stay there for long. When she was still very young, her family moved to London, settling in Kensington, a rich and polished area known for its quiet streets and elegant homes. Growing up there gave her a very different kind of childhood. On one side, she had the bold and direct energy of New York roots. On the other, she lived in a world filled with British manners, private schools, and a social environment where people learned how to carry themselves with confidence. This mix shaped her personality in a strong way. It gave her a natural presence that later made people stop and look, even before she became famous. Her early life was not just about place but also about influence. Her father, Harold Arthur LeBrock, was a businessman who worked in high-value industries, including a mercury mine, and also ran a restaurant that served wealthy clients. This meant Kelly grew up around people who expected quality and success. Her mother, Mary Cecilia Traynor, had a completely different background. She had worked as a model in London and later built a successful antiques business. From her mother, Kelly learned about beauty, style, and how appearance could shape opportunity. As a child, she spent time around rare furniture, old artwork, and valuable objects that were not just beautiful but also carried history. This kind of environment teaches a person to notice details and understand presentation. It showed her early that beauty was not just something people admired, it was something people built careers around. At the same time, her family background also carried deeper stories. Her mother's Irish roots came with history filled with struggle, hardship, and survival. These stories gave Kelly a sense that life was not always easy, even if it looked polished on the outside. This mix of elegance and hidden toughness became part of who she was. As she grew older, her life did not follow a simple path. She spent time studying in Montreal, where she faced strict rules and learned to adapt to a new environment far from home. She became fluent in French, which helped shape her thinking and communication. Learning another language is not just about words, it teaches patience and control. These qualities later helped her in modeling and acting, where confidence and calm behavior matter a lot. By the time she reached her teenage years, it was clear that she was not going to live an ordinary life. She stood out not just because of her looks, but because of her presence. People noticed her in public before she even entered the fashion world. At the age of 16, she made a bold decision that changed everything. Instead of continuing school in the usual way, she left and moved to New York alone to try modeling. This was a risky move for someone so young, but it showed her determination. Many teenagers wait for the right moment, but Kelly created her own. She arrived with simple tools, photographs, ambition, and confidence, and quickly began finding work. Her first jobs came fast, and soon she was traveling to different locations for shoots. One of her earliest major experiences was a campaign shoot in the Seychelles, which felt more like a movie scene than the start of a career. This moment marked the beginning of her rise. It showed that she was not just another hopeful face in the industry. She had something that made people pay attention. From that point on, things started moving quickly, and the quiet girl from Kensington began turning into a name the fashion world could not ignore. As Kelly LeBrock stepped deeper into the modeling world, her rise was not slow or uncertain. It was fast and powerful. By the time she was 19 years old, she had already reached a level many models spend years trying to achieve. One of the biggest turning points in her career came in 1981, when she appeared in a major issue of Vogue. This was not a small feature hidden in the pages. It was a full 24-page spread built entirely around her image. In the fashion world, this kind of attention is rare, especially for someone so young. It was a clear message that she was not just another model, she was being positioned as one of the defining faces of her time. After that moment, everything changed. Instead of chasing opportunities began chasing her. Major fashion houses started to take notice, and she soon became connected with powerful names like Christian Dior and Versace. These were not ordinary brands. They represented luxury, influence, and status. Being linked to them placed Kelly at the top level of the industry. Around the same time, she also worked with the famous Ford Models agency, which was known for managing some of the biggest names in fashion. Being part of that system gave her access to better photographers, bigger campaigns, and a strong support network that helped build her image. Soon, her face began appearing everywhere. She was featured on the covers of major magazines like Cosmopolitan and others that reached millions of readers. One of her most famous covers came in March 1981, where her look perfectly matched the style and beauty standards of the time. People remembered her face long after they forgot the issue itself. She had become more than a model. She was becoming a symbol of beauty for an entire era. But behind all this success, the reality was not always easy. Kelly later spoke about how the modeling world could feel shallow and difficult, especially for someone young and still learning. There were times when she faced rejection. Some people in the industry said her features were too strong or too different from what American audiences expected. This shows how even someone who later became famous had to deal with doubt and criticism early on. And when success finally came, it brought a new kind of pressure. The image that made her famous also began to limit how people saw her. Instead of seeing her as a person, many saw only the surface, her beauty, her look, and the idea they created around her. This gap between public image and private reality can be very hard to live with. Her fame grew even bigger when she appeared in a commercial for Pantene in 1986. The advertisement included a line that became famous across the country: "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." The phrase spread quickly. People repeated it, joked about it, and remembered it for years. It pushed Kelly beyond the fashion world and into mainstream recognition. Suddenly, she was not just known by magazine readers, she was known by almost everyone. But this kind of fame can be complicated. While the commercial made her more popular, it also created a strong and, sometimes, negative image. Some people thought the line sounded arrogant, even though it was part of a script. Kelly herself later said she did not like the phrase and felt uncomfortable with how it made her seem. This shows how fame can take control of a person's image in ways they cannot fully manage. By the mid-1980s, Kelly had everything many people dream about: money, success, recognition, and a powerful career. But at the same time, she was starting to feel the limits of that world. Modeling had given her a platform, but she wanted something more. She began to look toward acting, a field where she could express more than just appearance. This decision marked the next major shift in her life. It was not just about changing careers, it was about changing how people saw her and how she saw herself. As her fame continued to grow, Hollywood started to notice her potential. Producers and directors began to see that she had something beyond beauty, a presence that could work on screen. This opened the door to a new chapter, one that would bring even greater attention, but also new challenges she could not yet imagine. Kelly LeBrock's move from modeling to acting was not just a simple career change. It was a leap into an entirely new world that had its own rules, pressures, and expectations. In 1984, she made her first significant Hollywood appearance in the movie The Woman in Red, directed by Gene Wilder. This role was a turning point because it introduced her to a new audience beyond fashion magazines. Suddenly, her face was on movie screens nationwide, and people who had only seen her in print were now seeing her act, move, and speak. The character she played was glamorous, confident, and magnetic, traits that mirrored how the public already saw her. But acting is different from modeling. On the set, Kelly had to deliver lines, understand a character, and work closely with experienced actors who had been in the industry for years. This was both exciting and intimidating. She had to learn quickly, adapt to new challenges, and prove that she could do more than just look beautiful. Her co-star, Gene Wilder, reportedly admired her professionalism and charm, noting that she brought energy and presence to every scene. Despite these early successes, Hollywood soon revealed its darker side. Like many young actresses, Kelly experienced pressures to maintain her appearance. navigate complicated studio politics, and meet public expectations that were often unrealistic. The scrutiny was intense. Every red carpet appearance, every interview, and every photograph could be dissected by fans and critics alike. While she had already faced this as a model, film brought a new level of visibility that was hard to ignore. At the same time, Kelly's personal life began attracting public attention. She married Victor Dre in the early 1980s, and their relationship became a subject of media coverage. The couple was glamorous and seemed to embody the Hollywood dream, but behind the headlines, life was complicated. Later, Kelly would reflect on the challenges of balancing fame, marriage, and personal identity. One of the major turning points in her acting career came in 1985 with the release of Weird Science, directed by John Hughes. The movie became a cultural phenomenon and is still remembered today for its unique mix of comedy, fantasy, and teen drama. Kelly's role as the mysterious, perfect woman brought both admiration and criticism. Some viewers praised her performance, while others reduced it to her looks alone. This duality is something many actresses experience, especially those transitioning from modeling. Fame reached a level where Kelly's public image almost overshadowed her personal life. Fans often projected ideas and expectations onto her that had little to do with who she really was. She became a symbol of beauty and desire, which gave her power in Hollywood but also trapped her in a certain type of role. This tension between public perception and private reality is a recurring theme in the lives of celebrities. While her films earned attention, Kelly faced other pressures behind the scenes. Media speculation about her marriage, her behavior on set, and her private life became common. Rumors, some exaggerated and some false, circulated widely. In interviews later on, Kelly admitted that dealing with constant scrutiny was emotionally exhausting. It is not easy for anyone to feel like they're always being watched and judged. Over time, these pressures contributed to her decision to step away from Hollywood. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, she began prioritizing family and personal life over constant public attention. This decision surprised many fans who expected her to continue acting at the same high-profile level, but for Kelly, it was a conscious choice to reclaim her life. She focused on raising her children and building a life that was removed from the glare of fame. This period allowed her to explore aspects of her identity that Hollywood had often overshadowed. She developed interests outside of entertainment, from fitness to spirituality, and sought experiences that gave her personal fulfillment rather than just public recognition. While Hollywood continued to change, Kelly remained largely out of the spotlight, which allowed her to maintain a level of normalcy that was rare for someone of her fame. Interestingly, even after stepping back, her cultural impact remained. Weird Science continued to be referenced in pop culture, and the Pantene commercial line lingered in the public imagination. She had achieved a level of immortality in the entertainment world. Her image, roles, and iconic moments continued to define an era. In reflection, Kelly LeBrock's journey illustrates the highs and lows of fame. She experienced rapid success, immense public attention, and iconic cultural moments, but she also faced scrutiny, personal pressures, and the challenge of maintaining her identity amid constant expectations. Her life shows that fame is not only about recognition and success, it is also about resilience, personal choice, and the ability to redefine oneself beyond public perception. After stepping back from the intense glare of Hollywood, Kelly LeBrock began a period of life that was far removed from red carpets, movie sets, and media scrutiny. This transition was not sudden but gradual, influenced by her desire to focus on family, personal well-being, and creative freedom outside of the constraints of the entertainment industry. By the early 1990s, Kelly had largely withdrawn from acting, a decision that baffled some fans who expected her to continue riding the wave of fame brought by movies like Weird Science. Instead, she focused on raising her children and nurturing a household that was as private and grounded as possible. This shift did not mean she abandoned her passions. Rather, she redirected them. She explored ventures in fitness, wellness, and fashion, maintaining a connection to her earlier career while avoiding the relentless public spotlight. Kelly became interested in promoting a healthy lifestyle, sometimes giving interviews about diet, exercise, and self-care, which reflected a more mature, introspective approach to life. These interviews, while less sensational than Hollywood press coverage, demonstrated her desire to be seen as a complete person rather than just a glamorous face on screen. During this period, her personal relationships also underwent scrutiny, though she worked hard to maintain privacy. Her marriage to Victor Dre ended, and later reports linked her to other public figures. One of her most discussed relationships was with Steven Seagal. Their relationship, while heavily publicized at the time, became the subject of rumors, legal discussions, and intense media focus. Kelly later described this period as extremely challenging, particularly because the media often distorted the reality of her experiences. The scrutiny she faced was not only about her personal choices, but also about her appearance, career decisions, and the public narrative that had been built around her. It is important to understand that during the 1990s and early 2000s, women in Hollywood, especially those who had transitioned from modeling, were often treated unfairly by media outlets that prioritized scandal over nuance. Kelly's experience reflected these pressures. Despite these challenges, she remained resilient and continued to prioritize her well-being and the well-being of her family. She took deliberate steps to distance herself from environments that she found toxic or limiting, focusing instead on spaces where she could exercise control over her life and decisions. This period also allowed her to reflect on her career in a more measured way. Interviews later in her life suggest that Kelly viewed her earlier fame with a combination of pride and realism. She acknowledged the excitement, the opportunities, and the unique experiences her early career offered, but she also recognized the difficulties, including the objectification, the pressure to maintain an image, and the intrusion into her private life. Interestingly, even after years away from the public eye, Kelly's legacy in popular culture remained strong. Weird Science continued to be celebrated by fans, referenced in television shows, and quoted in nostalgic retrospectives about 1980s cinema. Likewise, her modeling work, particularly the iconic Pantene commercials, continued to influence beauty advertising and remain a point of reference for how glamour was defined during that era. In a way, her retreat from Hollywood did not erase